Hello everyone, welcome back to Fanblade. Do you ever get the feeling you've gone a little bit too far off course? This thing's been spinning for 24 hours now. If you haven't seen the last video to work out how we got here, then please go back. There's a link up in the corner. Yes, this was an idea I had. It hasn't really worked. Let's take the machine apart and we'll have a look at the results. That's rougher than if I'd just let it sit perfectly flat. In fact, when I recoat this, I am going to let it sit perfectly flat. There's a couple of reasons why this is, and there's a couple of things we can try as well. First of all, it was spinning too fast. 10 RPM was just too fast because as soon as a drip starts to level itself out, it's immediately being thrown back the other way, and it never got a chance to settle and level. So I'm thinking 2 RPM is about right. That's sort of what my instincts were to begin with. I have ordered a motor that goes at 2 RPM. So we will be trying this again, but there's another thing I'm going to try as well, because it is not all that warm in New Zealand at the moment. Autumn has come early, and the epoxy that I was using was a little bit too cold. In fact, you can even see it's kind of gluggy. It's sort of very, very thick and syrupy, even in the bottle. So I am going to take these two, and I'm going to sit them in the studio where it's nice and warm, because it's double glazed and there's a computer running all the time. And that means that stuff should just go on a lot more even. It should just flow better. It'll even itself out better. Also, if it's flowing better, I can put on a thinner coat, because that is the third thing that's wrong with this, is that I just put way too much on. This is a super thick coat on here, and I'm going to have to sand most of it off. What a waste. But that's the plan anyway. I'm going to sand this whole thing out. You can still see and even feel the seam where the edge of the fabric is around the edges, so very careful hand sanding around there, because I don't want to take off too much of the black. I'll touch it up if I need to. The neck, on the other hand, is coming along very nicely. It just needs a few more coats and a bit of sanding, and that'll be ready for its final polish and installation on the base, if I ever get around to getting that finished. But yeah, right now I've got quite a lot of sanding to do. So that didn't work. If anything, that looks worse. There's more pitting, there's like fish eyes, like it's just no. Big old bag of no. Obviously this is a failure as a finish. I'm going to call it a success as an experiment though, because we have learned a few things. Like we've learned epoxy very, very finicky when it comes to using it as a clear coat. There's a bunch of potential things that could cause this. My initial thought was that the stretchy fabric may contain elastic that was silicon-based, and silicon doesn't like to stick to things. That's why they use it for non-stick baking equipment. But it's a very low percentage, and I just don't see that being the main source. I think what the main cause of this is just contaminants on the surface. Even though I clean it, dust. This is a very dusty room. there's no chance that I'm going to get a good epoxy finish in this garage. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to sand all of this off again, and then we have to look for other options. Now, my preferred option is just a can of clear coat, and if I can sand this off nice and smooth without damaging the fabric, I'm happy to touch up the airbrushing again. I've already done it once, but if I accidentally go too far and put a hole in the fabric, then we've got major problems because no clear coat's going to be able to gloss over that. So, worst case scenario, I got some metallic rose gold paint, and we'll just paint the damn thing. Because the finish is not the only experiment we've got here. I want to know how these pickups sound. I still don't even know if this is a viable instrument. And I haven't even started to talk about the madness I've got planned for the strings. So, yeah, enough faffing about. One of these cans is going on here, but I'm going to find out which one after I've given it a good sand, and then we're just going to have to move on. Because I've wasted a lot of time on this. Now that's a bit more like it. That is so much closer to what I had in mind than anything that I've been able to get so far. Granted, it's not perfect. There are a few little bits where you can see some swirl marks from the power sander. Probably could have been a bit more careful in sanding those out because it's a little bit hard to see with all that epoxy. But there's also a couple of little bits where I did go through to the fabric, and I have put a lot of lacquer on this, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to wet sand those out and just make those disappear. I'm not going to bother doing that now. I don't need this to be perfect. I just need it to look okay on a darkened stage in a bar when I'm annoying my band by bringing another weird bass. This is also an excellent lesson in not overcomplicating things, although I do actually love the ability to jam that on something, just have that suspended in front of me while doing things to it. That is excellent. But the rest of the time, honestly, you don't need a lot of things. Maybe some duct tape, set of jumper leads, some pliers and a blowtorch. You will get some results. So I am therefore declaring this body completed, except for a couple of little adjustments I need to make to the neck pocket, because while all of that was happening, the neck's pretty much finished as well. It is ready for its final buffing and polishing, and that's going to come out an absolute treat. I had a little bit of stubborn grain just in there, and on the other side as well, right in the middle of there, and just a little bit down there, a couple of little spots that just wouldn't fill. Apart from that, she's an absolute stunner. Now, obviously, I've got some finish on here, making the neck ever so slightly wider. I've also got some spray lacquer, some overspray on the inside of this neck pocket, making it ever so slightly smaller. So I'm going to have to sand that out just so that the neck will fit. We'll make it nice and tight. Also, when I cut this neck pocket, I came in with the Forstner bit, then I cleaned it up with the router and then the chisel. I never actually put any back angle in it. So, a little bit of sanding still to do in there. This should just drop straight in, then bridge, pick up, strings, maybe some tuners might be useful. And yeah, we're on the home stretch now. We're actually on the home stretch. So here is where things are going to get super weird. I'm going to share a little secret that I don't even know if anyone knows this. I don't even know if the string manufacturers know that they don't want me to share this with you. Does it make any sense? Probably not. I have bought a set of regular long-scale bass strings, a 5-string set in fact. This is actually an E string, traditionally. There's no way that this is going to go down the hole in that tuner, which is why they taper them. This string is thick, 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 and then it gets thinner right there. This is because the inner winding around the core stops at that point, and then the outer winding carries on past there, and of course that's now sort of wrapped around the core itself, and it extends to the end of the string. What you can do is you can simply cut this to length and then unwrap the outer core. Allow me to demonstrate. I've got that anchored in the bridge. Double check that it's seated properly, because it sucks to get this wrong. Mark where the nut is, mark where the tuner is, and anywhere between that, anywhere in that gap, you can just whip off the outer winding and you'll have an inner core that you can stuff down inside that hole there. Simply snip it off and you're done. And that's how you get snare wire for that homemade cajon that you've always wanted to build. Now, I'm going to do the same with the B string. For extra style points, if you really want to, you can just take some cotton thread and just wrap it around. You can do your own silk windings. This is not difficult. I don't know why more people don't talk about this. You never need to buy short scale strings. You can buy long scale and cut them to any length you want. Any length that you want. It's easy. So I've just been into the studio and had a wee play on the thing, and yes, we've got something special here. I just need to tweak the setup and I'll meet you back in the studio in a second. So after all that, we've got ourselves a bass, and I'm happy to report that big things come in small packages. It's nice. It feels very sturdy. It feels very, very dense. It's actually quite heavy. I mean, it's only 3 kgs, but it feels like it should be lighter than this. It's very reassuringly sturdy. The pickups are sitting a little bit lower than I would prefer, simply because the screws that I had just aren't quite long enough. I've had to set them down a little bit further. The tone is good. I love the way they sound. If I could get them another 2mm closer to the strings, then it'd be even bigger. I will be making more of these. I think people should be playing these. I want to make these for people. If you would like one, I'm not selling them yet, but just register your interest so I know sort of how many and what you might be prepared to pay. I mean, obviously it would come with a much better finish. In fact, I have ordered a lot of things, and the UV curing cabinet idea, which a couple of viewers have suggested, that's coming probably in the next couple of weeks. So we'll see how that goes. But in the meantime, I'm going to take this to a gig this weekend. My band isn't going to know what hit them, especially if I hit them with it. I'm not going to hit them with it, but you could. This thing's just got... It's got baseball bat energy. You just want to swing it at things. I've been playing it for about an hour now, and the new string rattle has kind of started to just go away. Also, the other thing that I've noticed is that when I'm tuning it, I'm looking at the tuner, and I want to go and tune my D string. And I'm reaching far further than I need to. So, it's cool. It's odd. It's absolutely unique. And that's exactly what I started out to do, so I'm going to call that a major success. Despite all the failures we had along the way, I got a little mini travel bass that I can use to rob banks with. So thank you very much for watching, thank you very much for subscribing. Don't commit any crimes this week, and I'll see you soon. Thanks, bye.